Good morning, Suzuki Science, and here we are on week 6, if you can believe that. We have just finished molecular genetics, and we've done an entire unit through distance learning. And we ended off our week with our town hall debates, and in our town hall debates, you guys did an excellent job of an activity we've never tried before of evaluating the biotechnology application and arguing which biotech application was the best for human society. And in some cases, you were entertaining and made us laugh. In other cases, you guys were incredibly serious and right on point. Sometimes it was both. I will share a couple of clips with that from you, but first, let's get into this lesson. So this is a lesson most of you have been waiting the entire year for, this particular unit, because many of you take biology thinking that you want to go into biomedical, and this is all about the body, and the homeostasis unit is really the systems unit of grade 12 bio. So this is an area where you will have an opportunity to really see if you are ready for all the content that is associated with this unit as well. Normally in school, we do spend quite a bit of time on this, and there is an enormous amount of content. Even though we're doing the distance learning version of the learning, there's still quite a bit of content. You can't get away from it. It's a nature of the course. So for this particular unit, we're going to try to create these worksheets similar to what we've been doing with the grade 10s and 11s so that you have an idea of what is important. I'll show you what the worksheet looks like, and this particular video sequence will probably be in several parts because there's just so much content, and it's going to be layered. So I don't recall if I've done the layering with you already, because for the most part in grade 12, your emphasis on the learning is a little bit different than 9s, 10s, and 11s. You're going out to university, you do have your midterm marks, they're the lowest mark that you can be, so it's really a lot about intrinsic motivation to make sure you learn as much material as you can, so as few gaps as possible when you move into next year. So when you take a look at this, there'll be 3 colors. Green is the minimum. If you do the minimum, there's going to be huge gaps, and it's almost senseless, but it's really the 3 hour. For those who are really focused on the 3 hour mark, I don't think you are. I think you're really focused on learning what you need in order to be successful next year. Yellow is the complete. And when I say complete, that is the distance learning version of complete. It is by no means nearly as complete as what we'd be doing in the class. You're not getting the same learning. You're not having the same intensity of lesson and evaluations. And the purple is everything, right? So yellow is kind of a complete, you have enough knowledge that you will be able to get started next year. And the purple is more about engagement. No matter what happens, whether or not we do green, yellow, or purple, none of them are going to go over the content in the same way because we're just not giving you the same amount of content and evaluation and activity as we would do in the regular classroom. So you'll have this worksheet, you'll work through it, and you'll see the greens and yellows and purples. And you can answer directly on the worksheet or make up your own. In things like these tables here, it's a table, right? So put in the picture or graphic or text and make it as big or small as you want. There's a number of Learn360 resources. If you don't recall, you have to log into BYOD first. Then you have to click on the Learn360 tab. Once you've done that, then you can get into the Learn360 resources. Okay. To get to the Learn360 resources, you'll see links inside the Google Classroom, and I think there's 4 of them. Just click on them and they'll open up, or copy and paste it and they'll open up either way. When you do those Learn360 resources, I encourage you to take out this, delete it, and then copy and paste the completed check that you did for your Learn360 lesson if you do it. Some of the Learn360 resources are yellow, so I consider them complete. You do this, so this is a great intro into the homeostasis unit. And some of them are purple, so you only do that if you're getting the full experience. There's a number of places where if I was in class, I would have talked about these spreadsheets and flowcharts and whatnot, these graphics, and I would have strongly hinted at these things to be completed to prepare you for your test. Since we're not going to be doing a test, we'll be doing some kind of end of unit task, 2 of them, and I'll explain them in this video lesson at some point. I'll be providing the answers at some point, either in your PowerPoint or in this document. So here is the first of those flowcharts, and so the answers are somewhere, and for you to have a good understanding of thermal regulation, you should complete this map. However, this week we're only doing homeostasis as the intro, thermal regulation, and osmoregulation. So you actually don't have enough knowledge to complete this graphic yet. But because we're doing thermal regulation, the thermal regulation map is here. So you'll have to come back to this after you do endocrine system to fully complete this. There's another Learn 360 resource. Notice it's in purple this time. So for those of you who are, struggling to get through your math and some of the other courses and put them all together, your chemistry or physics and bio, you might want to leave that. But if you have the time, I would encourage you, because it does a very good job of of solidifying the concepts. Okay. Then we get into some fun questions. Sometimes the fun questions are purple, even though they're really, really easy to answer. And other times they are yellow because it offers a complete picture of the unit. So keep on going through. There's a Nearpod exploration, so I'll give you a code for the Nearpod that you can complete. You can answer directly in the Nearpod, or you can, better yet, take the answers and put them in the worksheet where I can see them. This inquiry, again, it's purple. If you have the time, it shows you you're making a connection to biochemistry from the beginning of the year. And another one of those flow charts. These bubbles here represent the answers to this particular flow chart. So this one I've given you a little bit more guidance on your direction. This, normally in class I'd have the model, the osmoregulatory model, the expiratory model with the kidney and the urinary bladder. I don't have that, so I just grabbed the graphic. It looks very similar to this. So you'd look at the model, you look at a poster, which I don't have a picture of either, so I just grabbed some pictures from online. And before you even get into this me teaching, you learning, take a look at the actual graphic and see if you can explain how osmoregulation works. And if you think about it really hard and then learn about it, there's a really good chance you might make a better connection. Here's another one of those tables. Notice that two of the columns are green, one is purple. Countercurrent, I give you a little blurb. Sometimes in here I give you little blurbs to teach the concept, because I know I'm not going to go into too much detail in the PowerPoint, or the PowerPoint doesn't have that content. This is kind of the end of the week product. I should have written end of the week. I should bold it so you know that this is kind of the big piece. It's in yellow, so it's not part of the minimum, it's part of the complete. And in here, what you would be doing is you'd be drawing a nephron and you'd be explaining how urine is formed. I'm going to teach it, I'm going to explain it. But then can you do it back? That's really the best way to demonstrate your understanding of this process. In your explanation, you really should be using this language here. At this moment, it's gobbledygook, but hopefully by the end of this lesson, it'll mean something and you can explain. In the next session, when we start going into drugs and endocrine and those things, I'm going to ask you to do something very similar, but this time to explain to me how a drug like caffeine greatly affects your urine formation. Some questions that are yellow and purple, some more Learn 360 resources, again in purple. Keep on scrolling down, some resource links that are very useful. I know you guys are doing a lot of self-learning as well, so I provided you some links that I think are good that you can go to and I'll teach you pretty well. These questions here, these are test questions. These are the questions that would be on previous tests. Even look, it even says 5 marks still. And so if you complete this unit, these are the kind of questions I would have asked you to do. At this moment, you cannot answer them. You do not have enough knowledge because, again, to answer these questions for full thermoregulation and full osmoregulation, you need to know endocrine and a little bit of nervous system as well. But I gave you kind of a peek at the questions so you know where you're headed in the upcoming weeks. Homeostasis evaluations. So we have several evaluations that we're going to use to determine your grade. These will be among the last things that we're going to do that will really be a big factor in raising your mark up. So with the druggy carousel, which we talked about way back at the beginning, many of you have already chosen your drugs, your stimulants or your depressants or your heroines or whatever it happens to be. You're going to talk about in a carousel how it affects the homeostasis balance, and you're going to do a debate with somebody in the class. I'm going to match you up. So that will be live. And then we're also going to be doing an end of the unit questions, so kind of like the test, but there'll be multiple choice questions. And there's this activity here. So this activity is the homeostasis feedback loop evaluation. Last semester, it was an alternative activity. In addition to the test, students were allowed to complete this in order to bolster their knowledge and communication mark. This semester, we are doing this instead of the test, and it does do a very good evaluation. There might be a live interview associated with it depending on what format you do. So depending on the format, if you do a comic or a graphic or something really short like a meme, I'll probably interview you because I need to know more information. If you do like a really thorough script skit or a really thorough comic or story with visuals, then I probably won't need to interview because I'll be able to pick out the entire message from the graphic. But we hold the right to interview you. So we might interview you and ask you questions to explain, to make sure that you understand the concept more than just what you wrote down. So just be aware of that. So this activity, you're creating a visual. You don't have to be artistic to do this. You can use online resources. I know Bitstrips is gone, but there's quite a few other places that you can use to create characters, or you can hand draw. So I've included some students from last semester's work. Many of them were too long for me to include in here, so I only put like little snippets. In your comic, you're going to, I say comic because you might do other things, but in your comic, you're going to include how a feedback loop is instrumental in a particular homeostatic process. The next 5 weeks is all homeostasis. We're going to start off with the intro now. Next week is endocrine. The week after is nervous. The week after is immune. And the week after that is circadian rhythms and stress. And that's actually going to tie into genetics and metabolism as well as homeostasis. Okay? At the end of that, so you'll notice there's a date here, on June 12th, you're going to hand this in. This is a submission, and we will assess it, and hopefully you'll go up by 1% to 10%, or no, you won't go up by 10% for one assignment, but hopefully you'll go up. And in that comic, in addition to focusing on the homeostatic process, you must include reference to circadian rhythm, reference to stress, ideally more than one connection to the concepts in homeostasis, that's a list here, and drugs. How can a drug affect your particular comic, of which you're going to do the druggy debate and a druggy carousel. So this should be really easy for you to implement. Also, if you can make a connection to your mito poster, that would be ultimate. And you're already there because I gave you certain circadian information to read, and then I asked you to put these clock genes on your poster. And those clock genes are the molecular connection to circadian rhythms. It's fascinating. You can make that connection. So here's Harkamal. She did an excellent comic here, so you can kind of skim through that. And Lorna did a drawing. You guys are probably familiar with Lorna's abilities, but I skipped the slides before this, the slides in between here. So I kind of picked and choose, and I put kind of panels of her comic in here so that you can see her story, so you can see another example of a story portrayed. Here's another example using, I think this was used in Bitstrips, but there are other applications out there that can do something that's similar. And that's it. So those are your evaluations. So that's what we're looking at in this unit. So in this unit, we are going to be doing weekly worksheets with things that you submit at the end of the week. This worksheet gets submitted at the end of the week. So whatever you get done, just submit. If you only get 5% done, submit it. If you get 50% done, submit it. And then as the end of the week task, there'll be some kind of end of the week task which will be buried in this. So in addition to this worksheet, there'll be something that's a little bit more. And that's the flip grid explanation of urinalysis, of how urine is formed. And then the end of the week questions, and of course the Bio League, the fun things that we do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as well are all embedded in there. All right, so that's the intro. I'm going to stop this here, and after this you won't see my face. I'm just going to do a lot of screens switching and up and down with the PowerPoint and the whiteboard applications and a couple of videos and things like that. So great to kind of see you, and I will talk to you soon.